This podcast is a member of the New York City Podcast Network at nycpodcastnetwork.com. Visit us to listen to over 250 amazing podcasts just like this one.
Japanese street style is some of the cutest and trendiest clothing in the world. Introducing Cherry Goddess Women's Clothing and Accessories, the hottest original and cute clothing company. We offer tops, clothes, accessories, shoes, dresses and skirts, and comfortable homeware that we guarantee you will love. Cherry Goddess Women's Clothing, super cute Japanese style clothing.
I'm here, my mic. Welcome back. This is Jeffrey Frazier, Black Street, Wall Street Chronicles, back at it again. Today we're going to be talking about a black serial killer by the name of the Grim Sleeper. Last week I kind of talked about the Grim Sleeper, and I found this story very interesting. He's a black serial killer that attacked black women and black sex workers. And being in Black Wall Street Chronicles, we support black women, and we support black women, and we do not like anybody that harms a black woman. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a couple of articles of about the Grim Sleeper, and I'm going to give you my opinion. Before we get started on the Grim Sleeper, I want to give a shout out to Flow Empire Network, the network where I have my broadcast of Black Wall Street Chronicles. Apparently the person that runs Flow Empire Network is retiring from radio, and I want to give a shout out to him. I want to give a shout out to Slims. Thank you for the opportunity, and I wish you bigger and better things in the future. Now I'm gonna look up the Grim Sleeper right now. Read a couple of articles about this man. Yes. Now, the Grim Sleeper is the nickname for convicted serial killer Lonnie David Franklin Jr., responsible for at least 10 murders and 1 attempted murder in Los Angeles, California. The attacker was dubbed the Grim Sleeper because he appeared had taken a 14-year break from his crimes from 1988 to 2002. In July 2010, Franklin was arrested as a suspect, and after many delays, his trial began in February 2016. On May 5, 2016, the jury convicted him of killing 9 women and 1 teenage girl. On June 6, 2016, the jury recommended the death penalty. And on August 10, 2016, Los Angeles Superior Court sentenced him to death for each of the 10 victims named in the verdict. It says he has a wife here. Lonnie Franklin Jr. was born on August 30th, 1952. He grew up in South Central Los Angeles, California. He married and had 2 children. He was given a general discharge from the United States Army on July 24th, 1975, after being released from prison for his conviction of gang rape of a 17-year-old teen in Stuttgart, Germany. Franklin and 2 other servicemen stationed in Stuttgart stopped to ask directions from the teen, then offered her a ride home. When she accepted that they put a knife into her throat, drove her to a field, and repeatedly raped her. She was able to fake interest in Franklin and asked for his phone number, which she gave to the police when she made her way to the hospital. During the gang rape, photographs were taken by one of the rapists, as the case with the woman Lonnie Franklin had raped and murdered. In 1989, he was also convicted of 2 charges of theft, 1 a misdemeanor assault, and 1 charge of battery. He served time for 1 of the death charges. In the 1980s, the LAPD marked the deaths of several women in South Los Angeles with the identification NHI, meaning no humans involved, which was used for cases involving chronic drug users and prostitutes. Margaret Prescott formed the Black Woman Count movement with community members to pressure the LAPD into acknowledging the deaths as serial killings and forming a task force in response. The coalition launched a media campaign and set a monetary reward aiming to capture the killer. The joint LAPD Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department investigation determined that the crimes were committed by a single person labeled the Southside Slayer. Their results were announced to the public on September 23, 1985. According to investigators, evidence was found suggesting that 7 serial killers were murdering women in South Los Angeles. Louis Crane committed at least 2 of the Southside Slayer murders, and Michael Hughes, Daniel Lee Stibert, and Chester Turner, and Evan Hill committed at least 1 each. A separate series of killings commenced with the murder of Deborah Jackson and a different modus operandi involving a firearm. These became known misleading as the Strawberry Murders. Sheriff Detective Ricky Ross was wrongly arrested due to a ballistics error. 2 decades later, the perpetrator of these crimes was dubbed the Grim Sleeper due to a long period of apparent inactivity between murders. In May 2007, the slaying of Janessa Peters, 25, was linked through the DNA analysis to at least 11 unsolved murders in Los Angeles, the same first of which occurred in 1985. The same year, in secrecy, the LAPD formed the 800 Task Force, composed of 6 detectives and overseen by the Robbery Homicide Unit. After a 4-month investigation, LA Weekly investigative reporter Christine Pileski broke the news of the task force's existence. The link between Peter's killing and the earlier murders of the silence of Mayor Antonio Vigorzola and Peace Chief Will J. Bratton recording the killer's existence. Vigorosa and Bratton neither issued a press release nor warned the community. In some cases, LA Weekly was the first to inform the families that their daughters had long been confirmed as victims of a serial killer. In early September 2008, Los Angeles officials announced that they were offering a $500,000 award to help catch the killer. On November 1st, the case was featured on the Fox program, America Once Wanted. On February 25, 2009, Bratton addressed the press for the first time regarding the case, at which time the police formally gave the Grim Sleeper nickname chosen by LA Weekly. Bratton also released a 911 call from the 1980s in which a man reported seeing a body being dumped by the Grim Sleeper, giving a detailed description and license plate number of a van connected to the now closed Cosmopolitan Church. In March 2009, Pileski conducted an extensive interview with Anita Washington, the sole survivor of the Grim Sleeper's attacks. Washington described him as a black man in his early 30s. He looked needy, tidy, kinda geeky. He wore a black polo shirt tucked into his khaki trousers. She also describes the interior and the exterior of his vehicle. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the arrest. Yeah, this is Jeff, Black Wall Street Chronicles, back at it again. We're talking about this man, the Grim Sleeper, who is a piece of crap, who is a black man who is a serial killer. And Los Angeles, the police department actually hid the fact that there was a serial killer killing black women in Los Angeles. And we're going to talk about that towards the end of the show. On July 7, 2010, the Los Angeles Times recorded that an arrest had been made. Los Angeles County District Attorney Steve Cooley identified the suspect as 57-year-old Lonnie David Franklin Jr., a mechanic who worked between 1981 and 1988 for the city of Los Angeles in the sanitation department and briefly for the LAPD. Franklin was identified for arrest, at least a part of familiar DNA analysis. Police had found no exact match between DNA found at the crime scenes and any of the profiles in California's DNA profile database. So they searched the database for stored profiles that demonstrated sufficient similarity to allow police to infer a familiar relationship. They found similar DNA belonging to Franklin's son, Christopher, who has been convicted of a felony weapons charge. According to Cooley, detectives then used a piece of discarded pizza for Franklin DNA to make the link. One undercover police officer pretended to be a waiter at a restaurant where Franklin ate, collecting dishes, silverware, glasses, and pizza crust to obtain DNA. The identification was used to arrest Franklin after his DNA was obtained and deemed a match. Saliva found on the victims established a DNA match linking Franklin to the deaths. Law enforcement missed the opportunity to catch Franklin because his DNA was never collected. In 2003, Franklin was convicted of a felony and was serving 3 years of supervised probation. In 2004, voters passed the Proposition 69, which requires that DNA must be collected for all felons and everyone arrested on some specific charges. Also requires the expansion of the DNA database. Authorities collected and sorted through thousands of DNA samples. While he was on probation, Franklin's DNA was supposed to be entered in the system, but was not, as probation officers did not collect samples from the people who were on supervised probation between November 2004 and August 2005. The probation department did not have the resources to collect samples until August 2005. On December 16, 2010, the LAPD released 180 photos of women found in Franklin's home after unsuccessful attempts to identify the individuals, possibly additional victims. These people are not suspects. We don't even know if they're victims, but we do know this. Lonnie Franklin's reign of terror in the city of Los Angeles, which spanned well over 2 decades, culminating with almost a dozen murder victims, certainly needs to be investigated further, said Chief Charlie Beck. In all, investigators found over 1,000 photos and several hundred hours of video in his home. The images show mainly black women of a wide age range from teenagers to middle age and over, often nude. Police believe Franklin took many of the pictures, which shows both conscious and unconscious individuals dating back 30 years. The photos were released to the public in an effort to identify women. On November 3, 2011, Rutgers reported that the police were considering Franklin as a suspect in 6 more slayings of additional female victims. The police were investigating 2 of the 6 potential victims killed during a 14-year lapse between an initial spate of Grim Sleeper murders that ended in 1988 and several more that began in 2002. Of the remaining 4 victims, 2 bodies were discovered in the 1980s and 2 were reported missing in 2005. But the remains of the other 2 were never found, police said. Detectives say they linked Franklin to 6 additional killings. After reviewing 700 of old case files and seeking the public's help in identifying a collection of 180 photographs of women and girls that was found in his possession. Franklin was charged with 10 murders and 1 attempted murder. He was held without bail until he received his death sentence. He is not charged in the death of 11 suspected victims, a black man, a crime for which DNA evidence was not found. On May 5, 2016, after nearly 3 months of trial and a day and a half of jury deliberation, Franklin was convicted of 10 counts of murder, 1 count of attempted murder. On June 6, 2016, Los Angeles County jury sentenced Franklin to death. Okay, we're going to take another break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the victims. Welcome back. This is Jeff from Black Wall Street Chronicles. We're back at it again. We're just going through talking about the serial killer that calls himself the Grim Sleeper. He was a black man that has been sentenced to death for a serial killer that was killing black women in South Central Los Angeles. Earlier we talked about who he is. We talked about his arrest and all the investigation that took him to get his arrest. And now we're going to talk about the victims. The known killings began in 1985 in South Los Angeles. The Grim Sleeper apparently took a 14-year hiatus after his last known crime in 1988, and the murders then resumed in 2002, leading to the epithet by which he is known. But this history may be the only accident of evidence collected. The last confirmed slaying was in January 2007. All of his victims were found outdoors, often in alleys a short distance from downtown Los Angeles. All but one of his victims were black women. One of his suspected victims was a black man. Many of his victims were prostitutes. One witness recalls that Franklin frequently brought prostitutes in his home. He shot all of his victims with a .25 caliber gun. Franklin took many photographs of nude women and kept them in records in his garage. The Grim Sleeper victims are follows. The first victim is Deborah Jackson. She is a female, black woman, 29. Her body was found on August 10th, 1985. The neighborhood where she was found was Vermont Slauson, Los Angeles. Henrietta Wright, female, 34. August 12, 1986, Hyde Park, Los Angeles. Thomas Steele, male, 36, August 14, 1986, Harvard Park, Los Angeles. Barbara Ware, female, 23, January 10th, 1987, Central Almada, Los Angeles. Bernita Sparks, female, 26, April 15, 1987, Gramercy Park, Los Angeles. Mary Lowe, female, 26, November 1st, 1987, Gramercy Park, Los Angeles. Latricia Jefferson, female, 22, January 3, 1988, Westmont, Los Angeles. Alice Monique Alexandra, female, 18, September 11th, 1988, Vermont Square, Los Angeles. Unrita Margaret Washington, female, survived, Gramercy Park, Los Angeles. Princess Bermil, female, 15, March 19th, 2002, Inglewood, California. Valerie McCovery, female, 35, July 11, 2003, Westmont, Los Angeles. Janisa Peters, female, 25, January 1st, 2007, Gramercy Park, Los Angeles. One of the Grim Sleeper's suspected victims. Although there is no DNA evidence to support the accusation, police said that the male victim, Thomas Steele, was probably a friend of another victim or had discovered the victim killer's identity. Anitra Margaret was told to use her middle name as her last name for her protection, but has since come forward as Anitra Margaret Washington, attacked on November 20th, 1988. She is the only known survivor. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break and we're going to talk about the trial. Thanks. This is Black Wall Street Chronicles, and we back at it again. I'm going to talk about the trial. I'm going to read this article about the trial. After I read the article about the trial, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give my brief opinion on the case, the various problems I have with the case and I have with the situation, and we're basically going to sign it off. We'll sign off the show and let y'all know what I'm going to talk about next week. So, on July 7, 2010, Lonnie David Franklin Jr., 57, was arrested. The Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office charged him with 10 counts of murder, 1 count of attempted murder, and special circumstances allegations of multiple murders in the case. After a lengthy pre-trial discovery and several delays, the trial opened on February 16, 2016. Closing arguments began on May 2nd, 2016, and the jury began deliberating May 4th, 2016. The jury convicted Franklin on all accounts on May 5th, 2016. On June 6, 2016, the jury rendered a verdict of death. On August 10th, the Superior Court sentenced Franklin on each count, naming the individual victims. Now I'm going to quickly talk about the film. There was a British filmmaker named Nick Broomfield that created the documentary film about Franklin, Tales of the Grim Sleeper. In 2014, Lifetime premiered a movie, The Grim Sleeper, based on the case. It was produced by Michael Jaffe Films and stars Dreamer Walker, Macy Gray, Ernie Hudson, and Michael O'Neill. Okay. So yeah, that's how it is. If you want references to the case, all you have to do is go to wikipedia.com. They have a whole bunch of articles and a whole bunch of references talk about this. So, going back on the Wikipedia article on this serial killer by the name of the Grim Sleeper. Here's the problem I have with the case. At first, now, they have this thing called where is it? Investigation. NHI means no humans involved, which was used for cases involving chronic drug users and prostitutes. So let me get this straight. You mean to tell me in the 1980s, if you was a black person and you was on crack and you was a prostitute and you was be killed on the street, they dubbed you as a no humans involved, NHI? That's interesting. That lets me know the reason why the serial killer was around running amok, because the serial killer did not care about the black prostitutes being killed. I noticed that right in the beginning. It says here, the Black Woman Count movement with community letters to pressure the LAPD into acknowledging the deaths as serial killings and forming a task force in response. So it took a community activist and Black Woman Count to basically pressure the LAPD to get them to investigate. That's interesting. Now, there's a chief police. Now, Mayor Antonio Villarosa and Priest Chief William J. Bratton. Now, that police chief on the LAPD, William J. Bratton, sounds very familiar. Yeah, he was the police chief during the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and he was the police chief during the Tupac and Biggie beef, and he was the police chief during the O.J. Simpson trial. He was also the police chief that was going on through those Los Angeles riots with Rodney King. Yeah, so this is very interesting. You know, the LAPD does not have a good relationship with black people. So, Chief William J. Bratton denies the killer's existence. Why am I not surprised? Why am I not surprised? So you have a serial killer that's been going around preying on black women. And according to this article, even though he was convicted for 10 murders, there's over 180 black woman victims. 180 victims of rape who's been shot, and only 10 came forward. What about those other black women? Did they survive? What happened? This is shameful. Yeah, well, I wish the hashtag Me Too movement would talk about stuff like this. Grim sleeper. So, what are we going to do? Listen, I support the protection of sex workers, because it doesn't matter the serial killer's race. Usually the serial killer's known to be a white man, but that's another story. Doesn't matter if the serial killer's white or black or whatever, right? We need to protect sex workers, and the reason why we need to protect sex workers, because majority of these serial killers, when they attack women, they attack prostitutes, they attack runaways that's in the street, and they sexually assault them and abuse them. But what really pisses me off is the racial epithet of this, because this NHI, no humans allowed, like, this is crazy. You know, just because these prostitutes are black and the prostitutes may be addicted to drugs, that doesn't mean you're just going to leave them out in the street like that. And it's different now, because if it was a white woman during this opioid epidemic and she was to be found missing, they'll have a big old America Most Wanted investigation just to find that white woman. Even though serial killers are known to kill a whole bunch of white women before they get caught too. So, I mean, what are we to do? You know, I was talking about this last week, and I thought I should go dive deeper into the story so, you know, I can talk more about it to bring more attention, you know. If you know anybody who's a victim of rape or a victim who's been killed, you should let me know about it. You should respond on the internet. You should respond to this post that I placed on the internet, to this radio station, on my comment section, and we can basically put two and two together, and maybe we can catch these assholes that is attacking sex workers in the street. Anyway, like I said earlier, this will be my last day with Flow Empire Network. I would like to thank my boy Slims, the owner of this network, for giving me the opportunity. This is my first podcast. There might be a week or a 2-week break before I start the new venue. But until then, you shall hear me from soon. The next thing I'm going to talk about is we're going to talk about the porn industry, and we're going to talk about racist interracial fetishes. So I want to thank you very much, and I want you to sign off. God bless. Enjoy your Memorial Day. Bye-bye.